Role number 12 is the founder of a global embodied carbon registry and API.
Right.
The revenue potential here is $1.4 to $25 million. And the mission basically is building the ISBN system for embodied carbon.
Yeah, and to understand why this matters, we really have to define what embodied carbon actually is, because it's not the energy used to keep the lights on in a building, right?
That's operational carbon.
Exactly. Embodied carbon is the carbon emitted to manufacture the materials themselves, so the steel, the concrete, the glass. And historically, tracking that has just been, well, guesswork.
Total guesswork, yeah.
But this founder creates a global registry that standardizes, verifies, and serves that very specific data.
So the best way I can visualize this, and you can tell me if I'm off base here, is like a universal nutritional label, but for building materials.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. So instead of listing calories and sodium, it gives every brick and every steel beam a carbon identity. It tracks its manufacturing history and assigns it like a confidence grade.
Exactly. So if you are an architect listening to this, you aren't guessing how green a material is anymore. You are pulling verified data.
And you do it through an API.
Yes. An application programming interface.
Yeah.
Which basically just means the registry software talks directly to your design software without you having to, manually look anything up in some massive PDF.
Which is a lifesaver.
Huge lifesaver.
Right.
Because that integration is the crucial mechanism here.
Right.
Once you feed that standardized carbon data directly into a BIM ecosystem.
Building information modeling, right, like Revit.
Right, exactly. The 3D digital canvas that architects use. Once it's in there, the data becomes actionable. It stops being this vague environmental aspiration. Because it's verified and standardized, you can actually write it into financial contracts.
What?
Yeah. So a typical day for this founder, they're reviewing data quality dashboards, hunting down statistical outliers, and really just convincing massive manufacturers to submit their materials for official verification.
Which leads us directly to the next rung on the ladder, number 11, the founder of the Carbon Budget Exchange for Developers.
Right, because you can't trade something if you can't measure it.
Exactly. But once role number 12 creates that standardized data, role number 11 builds the marketplace for it. And this one sits at $1.6 to $28 million. It's basically a platform where real estate developers can buy, sell, trade, or even hedge embodied carbon budgets.
Yeah, and think about what happens when you introduce a hard limit on carbon emissions through, say, local regulations.
Things get tight.
Very tight. Carbon budgets suddenly become a scarce resource. So this exchange allows that resource to be priced and transacted just like any other financial asset.
Okay, so it's a literal market.
Exactly. The exchange provides the standardized accounting, it holds funds in escrow, and it dictates the settlement rules so everyone plays fair.
Let me push back on this, though, because anytime you create a market for emissions, my alarm bells go off a bit.
Sure, yeah.
Like, what does this actually mean for the bad actors? Are we just creating a system where laggards, developers who refuse to adopt better, cleaner building practices, can they just buy their way out of trouble by purchasing someone else's budget?
It's a really common critique and a highly debated dynamic. But the underlying mechanics of this exchange actually force the broader market to evolve.
How so?
Well, here's how it works. It financially rewards the developers who overperform. If you build highly efficient, low-carbon structures, you now have a surplus budget that you can sell. You literally monetize your efficiency.
Oh, I see.
Right. And on the flip side, yes, the laggards can pay for flexibility while they figure out how to upgrade their capabilities. But that flexibility is really expensive.
It hits their bottom line.
Exactly. It hits their project margins directly.
Yeah.
So over time, making carbon a financeable, scarce resource naturally prices the worst offenders out of the market entirely.
That makes a lot of sense. So we have the raw data and we have the marketplace to trade it. But if you're a real estate developer, navigating these new carbon markets requires an incredibly specialized level of expertise. You can't just wing it.
No, absolutely not. It's too complex.
Right. And right now, boutique sustainability consulting firms are kind of popping up everywhere, but they are generally way too small to handle the massive global portfolios of major developers.
And they just don't have the scale.
And that structural bottleneck creates the opportunity for part 2 of our journey today, which is consolidating the industry. So coming in at number 10 is the chairman or owner of a sustainability consultancy group.
This is a fascinating play.
It really is. We're looking at $1.8 to $32 million here. This is a remote first owner who basically acquires a bunch of independent boutique sustainability and ESG firms and just rolls them up into one massive portfolio.
Yeah, it's a classic M&A mergers and acquisitions play, but applied to a hyper niche field. And the interesting thing is, the individual boutique firms often keep their specialized identities because, well, that's where their reputation lives.
Right, the clients know their name.
Exactly. However, behind the scenes, they share a unified brand umbrella, a centralized sales engine, and shared delivery infrastructure.
So instead of some dramatic vendors assembling moment, it's probably closer to like how a massive hospital network absorbs private medical practices.
It's a perfect analogy, yeah.
Right. The individual doctors still treat the patients, but they no longer have to worry about the billing software, the marketing, or, the administrative overhead.
Exactly. The owner of this consultancy group isn't actually doing the consulting. Their job is industrializing expertise.
Industrializing expertise. I like that.
Yeah, they take custom, bespoke consulting projects and convert them into standardized fixed scope packages or like monthly subscription retainers. And the core mechanism driving this business model is margin discipline.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
Well, a small, say, 5-person consulting firm spends half its time just trying to win new work.
Right, writing proposals and pitching.
Exactly. By centralizing operations and proposal writing, this roll-up captures a massive pipeline of enterprise-level work that the smaller firms could never even qualify for on their own. So the owner's day is entirely analytical, sweeping through utilization rates, monitoring pipeline health, optimizing profit margins.
And, well, if you can consolidate human expertise, you can certainly consolidate software.
Oh, definitely.
Which brings us to number 9, the founder or CEO of an AEC climate tech roll-up. An AEC stands for Architecture, Engineering, and Construction.
Right.
This role generates between $2.0 and $36 million. And they're executing the exact same playbook as number 10, but instead of buying consulting firms, they are buying climate tech software products.
Yeah, energy modeling, digital twin software, compliance trackers, they just buy them and merge them into one integrated suite.
Which sounds like a massive headache to actually pull off.
Oh, the day-to-day reality of this role is intensely complex. It is highly technical integration steering. I mean, when you buy 5 different software tools, they all have different login systems, different billing cycles, and completely different ways of storing data. Yeah. So this founder spends their time unifying authentication protocols and data schemas so that these tools actually, talk to each other seamlessly.
I imagine the target audience for this is incredibly relieved, though, because right now, if you are a project manager listening to this, you are probably suffering from severe tool sprawl.
Oh, without a doubt.
Like, you have to log into 10 different dashboards just to see if your building is on track.
Right. And tool sprawl is the exact pain point they are monetizing here. If this founder successfully unifies those tools, they become the singular operating layer for a company's climate compliance.
Wow.
And once you achieve that, your business moat becomes virtually impenetrable. If an entire architecture firm relies on your unified suite for their daily workflow, the switching costs to move to a competitor are just too high. You literally become structural.
Okay, so through roles 12 to 9, we've organized the data, we've built the financial markets, consolidated the consultants, and unified the software. But at the end of the day, software does not pour concrete.
No, it does not.
Right, dashboards do not install insulation. Eventually, someone has to swing a hammer.
Exactly.
And that transitions us into part 3, execution, trust, and financing. So number 8 on the list is the founder and CEO of a global net zero delivery platform, scaling from $2.2 to $40 million.
This is where it gets very real.
Yeah. This is essentially an orchestration layer for decarbonization projects. It matches energy audits, financing options, and physical contractors to actually deliver net zero buildings.
And this role bridges a massive chasm in the industry. It takes net zero from being, just a theoretical concept in a boardroom strategy deck and forces it into a delivered physical reality on a construction site.
But the platform itself isn't the real product here, is it? I mean, the actual product this founder is selling to massive real estate portfolios is trust.
Exactly. Trust is the product.
Right. If you own 100 commercial buildings and this platform reliably delivers contractors who show up on time, execute the retrofit correctly, and actually hit the promised carbon metrics, you are going to stop shopping around.
100%.
You'll just route all your projects through this single platform.
Yeah, because reliability is the ultimate premium in construction. And, while those physical retrofits are actually happening, someone else has to prove to the banks and the investors that the environmental goals are actually being met.
Right, the accountability piece.
Exactly. And that is the domain of number 7. The founder and CEO of a built environment ESG infrastructure company. This is a $2.5 to $45 million role. And ESG, of course, stands for environmental, social, and governance. This founder builds the digital pipes for ESG reporting.
It's digital pipes.
Yeah, they take messy, scattered building data, so utility bills, sensor readings, contractor logs, they normalize it and turn it into board-ready, audit-proof truth.
Man, if you are an asset manager listening to this, you know that right now, ESG reporting is largely a nightmare.
Oh, it's
just a labyrinth of Excel spreadsheets, disparate PDFs, and a lot of frantic guesswork right before quarterly earnings.
Yeah, it is a highly fragmented and incredibly high-stakes process because financial markets increasingly tie interest rates and investment capital directly to ESG performance.
Right, so there's real money on the line.
Real money. If you fail an audit, it costs you millions. And that threat is exactly why this infrastructure business wins. If a massive real estate trust survives brutal third-party audits using your data pipes, they will never leave you. The customer retention is terrifyingly strong.
Wow.
Yeah, the founder's daily focus is just ensuring your software aligns with the latest third-party assurance standards and, integrating directly with physical building management systems so data flows without any human error.
Okay, that sets up a perfect transition to number 6, the founder or CEO of end-to-end retrofit financing and delivery.
This one is huge.
Yeah, we are now looking at $3.0 to $55 million. This role looks at the 2 biggest friction points of upgrading a building and just collapses them into one single company. It answers both who pays for this and who actually does the physical work without causing chaos.
Right.
So they provide the financing for the retrofits and they oversee the physical construction. But I have to stop here and ask, taking on financial underwriting risk is incredibly dangerous, right?
Yes.
And taking on physical construction delivery risk is notoriously unpredictable. Isn't combining both of them just a recipe for catastrophic failure?
That is the exact paradox of this role, and it's precisely why the financial reward is so incredibly high. To survive taking on both underwriting and construction risk, this company absolutely cannot do highly bespoke custom architectural work.
Oh, so no fancy one-off designs.
Zero. They survive through severe, ruthless standardization. They develop highly specific retrofit playbooks, say, a specific HVAC and insulation package for a specific era of mid-rise office buildings.
Okay, I see.
Right. And by doing the exact same scope of work hundreds of times, they drastically reduce the variability that normally plagues construction.
So the moat is pure operational reliability.
Yes. And because they control both sides of the equation, they capture multiple revenue streams simultaneously. They charge origination fees for the loans, they capture the interest spread on the financing, and they take platform fees on the physical delivery.
Man.
Yeah, it requires intense governance, obviously, but the unit economics are phenomenal.
Wow. Okay, so we've covered execution on a project level. But if you are trying to change the entire global built environment, delivering individual retrofits, even highly efficient ones, it just isn't going to be enough.
No, it's a drop in the bucket.
Exactly. You have to move from upgrading single buildings to bending entire global supply chains. And that brings us to part 4 of our deep dive. Number 5 on our list is the founder or president of a climate-positive development consortium. We are now jumping up to the $3.5 to $65 million range.
Yeah, and the scale shifts dramatically here. We are no longer talking about individual companies. This is a coordinated club of massive developers, material suppliers, and financiers who basically pool their demand to secure shared procurement leverage.
Think of it like a bulk buying warehouse club like Costco, but for decarbonizing skyscrapers.
That captures the dynamic perfectly.
Right.
The mechanism at play is the power of aggregation.
Right.
Because if one developer asks a steel manufacturer to change their entire factory process to produce low-carbon steel, the manufacturer's going to say no, right?
Yeah.
It's too expensive.
Yeah, obviously.
But if a consortium of 20 major developers guarantees they will buy $1 billion worth of low-carbon steel over the next 5 years, they literally bend the market. They force the manufacturers to upgrade their factory because the consortium just controls way too much buying power to ignore.
And once you bend the supply chain and secure those predictable lower costs, you can start offering guarantees to the end consumer, which is exactly what role number 4 does.
Yes.
The founder or president of a global building decarbonization utility, $4.0 to $80 million. This role bundles energy upgrades, electrification, and ongoing compliance into one massive long-term contract. It basically treats building decarbonization as a predictable utility service.
And it entirely removes the operational and capital burden from the building owner. It is remotely managed, highly distributed, and it generates revenue that is incredibly stable, almost like an annuity.
I love this one because it's so relatable. It's basically like buying a cell phone plan. Like, when you buy a mobile plan, you don't worry about maintaining the cell towers or upgrading the fiber optics or navigating telecom regulations. You just pay a monthly bill for access.
Right.
So here, a building owner pays a monthly bill, and this utility company handles the HVAC installations, the solar panels, the maintenance, and guarantees that the building will meet all future carbon regulations.
It's a brilliant model. But here's the catch. To run a global automated utility like that, you need standardized global rules. And currently, the rules governing how we build are just a chaotic mess.
A total mess.
Which brings us to part 5. Rewriting the rules of reality, the final 3 roles on our ladder. Because right now, local building codes are basically stuck in the dark ages. They are massive, static PDF documents subject to local municipal infighting and endless bureaucratic delays.
Enter rule number 3, the founder or president of a worldwide green code infrastructure platform,
Yep.
$5.0 to $100 million. This role takes those massive static PDF rulebooks and turns them into living machine-readable code. We're talking APIs, automated compliance checks, and version control that plug directly into an architect's design software and a city's permitting office.
And if you successfully build this, you become the ultimate rule engine for the built world. But the real question is, how do you convince a stubbornly bureaucratic city government to adopt a private company software?
Yeah, that sounds impossible.
Right. But you do it by solving their 2 biggest pain points.
Yeah.
Massive permitting backlogs and liability. If a city adopts this API, architects can instantly run their 3D models against the code before they even submit them, ensuring they are perfectly compliant.
So it's basically Grammarly or like a real-time spell check, but for building legality and environmental impact. If you draw a window that's too large for the energy code, the software just flags it immediately.
Exactly. Every piece of design software must route through your platform to verify compliance. And your day involves monitoring legislative updates across global jurisdictions and ensuring the logic of your code remains transparent and contestable by human engineers when edge cases arise.
Brilliant. Okay, we are almost at the peak. Number 2 is the founder or president of a planetary buildings to carbon settlement layer, $6.0 to $125 million. The prompt describes this as the plumbing that connects physical building actions to verified carbon accounting and financial settlement between owners, insurers, and governments.
Yes.
But let's pause and clarify something here. How is this settlement layer fundamentally different from the carbon budget exchange we talked about back in number 11?
It is a vital distinction. Number 11, the exchange, is the marketplace. It is the NASDAQ queue where buyers and sellers agree on a price and execute a trade. Number 2, this settlement layer, is the underlying plumbing that ensures the asset being traded actually exists.
I see. It's the ledger.
Precisely. If a building claims it reduced its emissions by 20%, this planetary system ingests the sensor data, verifies the reduction against the established physics, and immutably records it so the financial value can be settled between the parties.
So no one can cheat the system.
Exactly. It is planetary scale infrastructure designed specifically to prevent fraud. It allows entirely new global economic contracts like performance-linked financing to exist with absolute, cryptographically secure trust. It's not just a dashboard, it's the financial truth layer for the physical environment.
Which finally brings us to the absolute peak. Number 1, the highest evolution of the Tier 7 architecture roles. The founder or president of a global architecture environment operating system.
The big one.
$8.0 to $150 million. This is the OS that orchestrates absolutely everything we've discussed today.
Yeah, this is where the entire ecosystem converges.
Yeah.
You have design intent from architects, carbon budgets from the exchange, energy models, supply chain procurement, regulatory compliance, construction tracking, and decades of operational performance.
All in one place.
Yes. This operating system acts as the single, indisputable truth model for the entire lifecycle of a global real estate portfolio.
So it's not necessarily replacing the individual tools, it is the master orchestration layer sitting above all of them.
Yes. And the business becomes a $150 million behemoth because it sits exactly at the intersection where abstract financial and design decisions become permanent physical reality.
Wow.
And, the founder of this OS has a uniquely rare skill set. They must be entirely bilingual. They have to deeply understand the physical realities of architecture and construction while simultaneously possessing elite software engineering and platform dynamics knowledge.
That's a rare combo.
Very rare. They usually start by finding one workflow that everyone in the industry hates, like ESG reporting, and they use that as a wedge to expand until they're the default digital environment through which all projects are conceived, financed, and built.
Wow. So if you are listening to this, let's look at the journey we just took. We went down this list one by one. We started all the way down at number 12, looking at a relatively straightforward registry to label the carbon in building materials.
Yeah.
And step by step, we ascended the ladder. We moved into market exchanges, consulting roll-ups, physical delivery platforms, global code infrastructures, and finally arrived at a planetary operating system governing how the physical world is financed, approved, and built.